of all of us, including this joint committee, as the representatives of the people. Of all the people who appeared before you, Chair, only the members here are elected directly by the people of Kenya. And therefore, we must reason like the people of Kenya. Because I believe a representative, you are not elected to leap forward. You are elected to represent. And representing, you only represent the people who are like you. So our reasoning must always correspond to the reasoning of the people of Kenya in such a matter as this. And therefore, Chair, some of the issues I'll be highlighting, I may give solutions given the experience I have, but I'll also give a lot of questions, because I believe those questions I'll be giving forth, it is also our business to seek for answers from the right offices where the people we represent may not necessarily be able to go there by their own. Starting off, and I hope I'm clear on that, some will be questions, because I need answers also as a Kenyan, as a member of parliament, but also as a practitioner in the capital markets. But others will also be proposing solutions. The answers meaning there are technical departments of government who should provide answers to those questions. So, Chairman, my first issue, and I'm doing this in good faith just for a start. I'm doing it for good faith. If, for example, now I am told Kenya can get value for this transaction, I will leave this meeting because my business will be done. And having said that, I have some experience in the capital markets. Chair, you will allow me. There is some information, I also have some I'll say today, some I'll say in the floor to guide this discussion nationally. And there are some information I'll just highlight for you to also dig further, because I know, and I would not want to bring emotional suggestions. I'll say things that I know for sure. I have a backup of evidence. Number one, Chairman, this transaction that you're having is the largest in terms of quantum since our independence. Kenya has never had a divestiture of this nature in terms of quantum. It is the first time. And therefore, it should be important that we make this debate as robust as possible. Before the National Treasury even brought the sessional paper, I would want to know, Chair, and it's not you to answer, I'm just asking so that the committee can continue also interrogating it, whether there was public participation done at the level of the National Treasury, and especially given the importance of this transaction. The second thing is that I am privy to the information that some of the people who actually represented the government of Kenya in this transaction are neither contracted by government, they are also neither civil servants. Who did they represent? And especially some I know. And when the right time comes, I will give names so that we move forward together as a country in this matter. How can we have in a transaction a person meeting our buyers informally, and the same people also do business with the buyers? And as they say so, Chairman, I know exactly what I'm saying. Even the people who I am referring to, they know. So I'd want to get a list from the time this transaction started, the inception, which is the committee that has been handling this transaction on the side of government. Who are these individuals? So that we run away from this blanket issue of saying government, yet the people we are calling government are actually not government. So, Chairman, it is important since this transaction started that we get a list of the individuals who have been involved in negotiating for this transaction. But some of the issues, because I've been following, I will raise, are also issues that have been raised by other people. And this is my second issue. It's about the valuation. Chair, when I raised this issue first, the response I got from government was market price. National Treasury, I asked, what is the basis of valuation? They talked about market price. Chairman, since when I started buying shares, there is a canon of the market that is not just in Kenya, but across, that markets can give liquidity. So so that when I want to trade shares of Kengen, of Safaricom, there is somebody or a platform for me to trade with. But the market do not necessarily offer valuation. And I'll use Kenyan scenarios. Chairman, if, for example, you look at today, in the stock market today, because it's online, you realize that a company, for example, Kenya Power, trading at today's price, the market valuation of Kenya Power is around 30 billion shillings today, actually 29 billion shillings. This is a company with assets of over 400 billion shillings. A company making 24 billion in net profits. Chairman, I invite this committee to check. If properly we are looking for the welfare of Kenyans, could we sell Kenya Power even at double price of 60 billion? If somebody offered the government of Kenya today to buy Kenya Power for 60 billion shillings, double the current price, would the government sell? I think the answer is no. The same company, the valuation was 4 billion shillings 15 months from today backwards. Nothing fundamentally has changed, but the valuation of Kenya Power has more than times 7. There's nothing that has fundamentally changed. This just to show the vagaries of the market when it comes to valuations. You can talk about Kengen. Kengen is making around 10 billion in net profit every year. The valuation as of today is 60 billion shillings. Their asset is 500 billion shillings. The valuation of Kengen is 60 billion shillings today, Chair. Can the government sell Kengen even at 100 billion today and say we are dealing with market price? If you compare Kengen with a peer, a similar company, let me pick one market, for example, Nigeria. If you check NGX, the Nigerian stock market, there are similar companies like Kengen. One is called Transcorp Power. There is another one called Geregu Power. Geregu Power actually had a transaction the last 2 weeks. They produce power half of Kengen, yet their valuation is 200 billion. This is one market called Nigeria, valuing half of Kengen at 200 billion. This is our market here in Kenya, valuing double of Transcorp for 60 billion. That is a total mismatch. And that is why when there is a big transaction, markets are usually never used. And I'll give you the final example, Chair, so that we just understand where I'm coming from. I gave this on TV the other day, but it's good I say it in record. In 2013, Chair, I had some few shares of a company called Weuh. And the company was trading at 27.5 shillings. And I'm still handling the issue of market price. 27.5 shillings. So some guys decided we are going to buy off Weuh. And they gave us an offer, just exactly like the one we have from our buyers. They gave us an offer of 40 shillings. That was a 45% upside. And me as a small-time shareholder, I was thinking, this transaction is too good. We need to fasten. I cash in the 45%. But what did they do? One company called Centrum petitioned the Capital Markets Authority. And they decided to open the bid for other people to bid. What was the consequence? One company came, that one called Centrum. This one had bid 40 for a share of 27.5. That is how it was trading in the market, and that is the last price Weuh traded in the market. So one guy gave us 40. After the bid was opened, me, I was thinking, with my 10,000 shares, this is already too good a deal for me. Centrum petition, they offered a bid of 50. After 2 weeks, another company gave a bid of 55 shillings. I actually thought it was drama. Later on, the same company that was to buy at 40, called Rare Trading, gave the final bid after negotiations with the other bidders of 70 shillings upfront cash, and they were to divest from land which they have. You know Rare Vipingo, the area around Vipingo, that's the land I'm talking about. These are not stories. They gave us a quotation. After divesting from the land, we were to get an extra 15 bob. But because they wanted to exit very quickly, they actually told us, you not wait for the land to be divested. You guys, we are going to pay you 85 shillings now. A share of 27.5 shillings, Chair. And I pocketed myself 85 shillings and other Kenyans. That is the reason why When you give forth a competitive process, you get people competing for your asset. The language of a buyer is not the language of the market. When I want to buy something and I start talking about the market, that is the language of the buyer, not the seller. And that is where I see a problem is. On the same chair, this is public information. If you check when the directors of Vodafone, their group now, they are called Vodacom, called for a press conference, they were very, very upbeat about the transaction. In Kenya, the way we are asking for information, you realize here most of the information we actually got it from the buyers. Most of the information was volunteered by the buyers. So when they went back to SA and they called the press, one of the people there actually commended the directors for getting such a good deal. So we are here as Kenyans giving our asset for a song when the buyers on the other side, they are being treated like kings for getting a good deal and of course for taking advantage of our incompetence as a country. Chair, the second thing I have handled it already. I could have given many examples, including the recent one of Amson and Baburi. Before the information leaked in the market that Amson was to buy Baburi, and the price they ended up paying, it is upward of 175%. But they calculated when the information had already leaked. That's why they talk about a single digit, a double digit upside. But the real one before the market leaked, it was over 175%. Just to give many examples. Even banks in Kenya are undervalued. So what I'm trying to say here in this issue of the market, it will be a tragedy for Kenya to value this transaction based on the market. Because even private companies, take for example, banks. I want to give an example of a bank like KCB, where the government has a 19% stake. The current valuation of KCB is less than 230 billion shillings. It is around 0.7 to book value. Meaning, if you disband KCB today, the money you would get, it is trading in the market at 75% of the value. Would we go to the market and say we are selling this company at market price really? Even I will give the final example of a company that has no government attachment. Take a company like Diamond Trust Bank, a company which is a bank with 100 billion shillings in shareholders' funds or co-capital. If you buy the share today in the market, it is trading at 32% of that value. Would you go to Happy Bank to tell them to sell you the share in the market price? Would they agree? It has never happened in the market and elsewhere. Currently in the US, there is an ongoing bid of a company called Warner Brothers Discovery, the owner of CNN. But they are not selling in the market. There is a bid, and the final bid is two companies, one called Paramount and Netflix. Then, this jargon about the market, a sophisticated market like the US is seeing the value of in competitive bidding in a private company. But here in Kenya, we have been cornered by our buyers, and we are now talking the language of market price. It will be wrong, and history will not judge us very well if you continue this transaction with this kind of consideration. Second, I have already handled that process. Chair, 6 billion shares we are selling with our population, it means the government is selling my 100 shares as did in Europe. If you divide the shares we are selling, Chair, and you give Kenyans their share, everyone in this hall, because we are all Kenyans, today will be allocated 100 shares. So we must look at it that way. So my 100 shares, what is the process that has been taken for the buyer to be identified? What was the process? How did you one day wake up and decide we are going to sell to the current buyer? I will highlight just a few because I know there will be questions. Let me go to the next one. There is something in the market for any transaction to work. For any transaction to work efficiently, Chair, there is something called information symmetry. selling our stake of 15% to a company who is already inside Safaricom, who are already having board members. So definitely, they already have a step ahead of any other person who would think of buying our stake because of the information asymmetry. That is something else that we have to look at. Chair, allow me so that I go, this other point I think is the main one that brought me here. So before I go to that one, this issue of valuation, let me just recap a little bit in 1 minute. So, beyond the market, can we get the government of Kenya, when they conceptualized this issue of selling our stake, which valuation methods did they employ? Who did they hire to do the valuation? When did they hire those people? Because listening to the proceedings in the previous appearances, I heard about KCB and a framework contract. But Chairman, I would want to see that framework contract because I've been listening so that I don't waste your time. And
Mheshimiwa, I think yes, Treasury did make that, and as a committee we have requested for that framework. So, and I'm sure as a member of Parliament you will definitely have access to that once it's right.
Thank you very much, Chair. You know the reason I'm asking that, Chair? The day of the announcement of this deal, it became unwholesome. This is not how even transactions have been done previously. You come and bombard the market with information, and then immediately you're already announcing the price. So who determined that price? Who are these people who are hired to determine this price? That is something we have to interrogate. So there are various variations, that is what I'm trying to arrive at. In telcos, you can do EBITDA times, depends on how many times it is. But let me use the most simple manner and parameter of valuing a company as diversified as Safaricom PLC. Chairman, if you want, the easiest is price of earning ratio. It's called P ratio. Safaricom, remember this financial year, they are having a blockbuster increment in profit. Chair. So, we are selling our cow just immediately when it is coming out of the roots. What do I mean about the roots? Conveniently, the market has been bearish, but Safaricom has even been more bearish for this reason. You are building a flat here. We have a company, let's say, called ABC Limited. You are building a flat which you're already collecting rent. And that rent, you need to build another flat. So the person looking at the bottom line will see that all the money you made in your first flat is already building the second one. So there will be no much profit. So our flat here is Ethiopia. We went to Ethiopia, Safaricom went to Ethiopia. Licenses alone, one license was 850 million USD. The other one was 150 million USD. You've already sunk 100 billion USD in Ethiopia on licenses alone. I've not talked about towers. They have done thousands of towers in Ethiopia. So that company, before it went to Ethiopia, because my main point is around valuation, in 2021, the share price was 45 shillings. And the market valuation of Safaricom PLC in 2021 was 1.8 trillion shillings. 2021. It has since invested in Ethiopia. Yes, it was bleeding, but the bleeding of cash in Ethiopia, according to Safaricom themselves, in the release of the last financial year, they are anticipating by next financial year, they are breaking even operationally. How convenient is this then, that we come just when Safaricom will start adding into the bottom line, and then, surprisingly, we want to sell our stake, but also basing it on the vagaries that Safaricom has gone through called markets. So in terms of P ratio, Chair, Safaricom, the kind of profit they make this year, their P ratio by March, because they close their books in March, will be around 16.1. P ratio measures, if you rely on dividend payment and the company pays 100% of dividends, how long would it take you to to recover your investment. In terms of Safaricom, the PE ratio by the closure of the financial year in March will be 16.1 years. Now look at this chart. The peers, take for example Orange. Orange PE ratio is over 30. You take 30 years. Take any other globally. Just do your homework, but let me zero in into themselves. The guys who are buying us. Bharat Airtel is like 39. The guys who are buying us, the best their PE ratio has been is 40. The best. The recent one is negative because at the group level, they are making losses. So that's why they went for a celebration after leaving Kenya, because they knew, based on that parameter alone, they are buying us, they are actually getting us for free. Chair, I want to go to the main point. And Chairman, my pleading is this. If there is one point I would indulge the committee to just dig deeper, it is this one I'm giving. Chairman, in any transaction, Honorable Kaluma is a lawyer, I'm sure he knows. Any commercial lawyer knows. In any transaction, the detail is not even in the price. The detail is in something called quotation precedent. Quotations precedent. Quotations precedent is like I am buying a shamba. So I'm buying some piece of land in Migori. So when I'm buying this piece of land, part of the condition, let's say I'm buying it for 2 million shillings per acre. By the condition precedent, I'm told, we think there might be gold here. In case there is gold, the condition precedent we are right there, I will always have half of the revenue from that gold. Chairman, that supersedes even the consideration. I invite this committee because I know what I'm talking about is the fact. Kenya is losing over 100 billion Kenya shillings on condition precedent alone. And the Communications Authority is the bigger conveyor of these quotations precedent. Licenses that were due last year, including the main licenses, which I have submitted in my memorandum. Like the network facilities, the one that deals with network facilities, which is Tier 1. Chairman, who authorized the Communications Authority to commit to give a discount to Safaricom in the renewal of 5 licenses, which some I have tabulated in my memorandum? That Kenya in that respect is losing close to 100 billion Kenya shillings on conditions precedent. This we have already promised the buyer. We have told them, you buy us out, you'll pay half the license fee. Half the license fee in terms of billions of shillings. Money enough to make basic education in Kenya free today. So the Communications Authority, the management, went ahead to commit Kenya to a loss of over close to 100 billion Kenya shillings on conditions precedent. The board had not met when the management of CA did that. And I want them to table to this committee when the board of CA met to actually discuss about not any other matter, the conditions precedent that we have given to the buyers where Kenya is losing over 100 billion shillings. So we are here talking about 2 or 4 billion, but the net amount of money we are actually getting as Kenya is 1 or 4 billion, because 100 billion shillings is already lost in quotations precedent. Chairman, if there is one thing that you have to stop is that one, because there is no basis. Secondly, Licenses that were to be guaranteed or given for 15 years. All of a sudden, the Communications Authority gives an additional length of time of up to 25 years. Chairman, all of us here.
A point of order, Chair.
Yes, what's your point of order?
Chair, Good Honorable Ndindi refers to the page of the presentation so that we follow. Because the presentation he's making is very important. On what page
I decided not to follow the memoranda page by page because I leave it for record, but the one I'm referring to is on page 4. Can I continue, Chair?
Mheshimiwa Kaluma, did you have, what was your?
Yeah, Chair, it is confirmed it's on condition precedent.
Okay. Go ahead, Mheshimiwa Ndindi.
So, Chairman, I was saying this. Some of the licenses that other players in the market are getting for 15 years, the buyer cornered us as Kenya to put on a length of 25 years. Members, my brothers and sisters, we are here committing our country for the next 25 years. And I want all of us to add 25 years to the age that you already have. And we commit that we can continue answering these questions. That we committed Kenya to a loss of 100 billion. That we are willing to answer that question until, if you are 40, you are 65. And what is the basis of even this condition precedent? It is just absurd, Chair. And this must stop. And some of these conversations that were done, that we take this discussion and this transaction so light that we are doing phone calls. Phone calls where Kenya is losing 100 billion shillings that make this letter to the, when the transaction happened, Chair, it was a hurry because I thought this is the only person who can bail us out because we are nearing election, we need money. So that issue then,
Yes, Mheshimiwa Ruto, what is your point of order?
I wish Mheshimiwa, when he said doing phone calls is something of material, probably you could substantiate that. I look forward to it. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Ndindi.
Thank you very much, Chair.
I think just for the
right time.
No, I think at the right time, but for now, I think it's best to just withdraw that phone call so that we just make progress on the matter that we're here for.
I can't withdraw, Chair, even if I'm to end my discussion here, because my presentation today, history will prove me right. I know, and I'll table at the right time.
But you see, you've mentioned it in this committee, and once something is mentioned on this committee and the member has clearly asked for the substantiation, if you cannot provide that at the moment, it's best, as you said, when you have that opportunity to present it again, then you can come up with the substantiation. But for now, I'll kindly and respectfully ask you to withdraw so that we just, you're doing a very important presentation. Let's not lose that. The Honorable Lady.
Chairman, let me withdraw to postpone it to a later date.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
Chairman, have you looked at mobile termination rates? What conditions precedent did we give to the buyers? Conditions precedent, and as I'm repeating, is this, Chair. You want to sweeten the deal. In the markets, we say sweetening the deal. So that, okay, I'm selling this cow, but I'm also selling with the calf. You try to sweeten. So, the condition precedent we gave is actually bigger than what we are selling. So we lose money on one hand through CA, one on licenses, 5 of them, over 100 billion shillings. Secondly, on this other side, Chair, we are here now pushing Kenyans into a corner through mobile termination rates. I know you'll do that homework. I'm almost finishing, Chair. Chairman, I want this committee to investigate further because the buyer we are having is not beyond reproach. If we are dealing with a buyer who is beyond reproach, the market would quiet and no one would have an issue. But then we are here dealing with a buyer who has already proven to the Kenyan people that they cannot be trusted, and especially with integrity. When Safaricom share was being listed, I was working for a stockbroker when I was in university. And therefore I have the details of that listing. Chairman, there was a company called Mobitelea, which owned 5% of Safaricom by the time of listing. Previously they owned more. If you look at the listing memoranda of Safaricom, this was how the shares were allocated. 35% was to be listed, 35% was GOK. 35% was our buyers. 40% in the market, which we all own. Now, Chairman, in the current memoranda, which was released by the same buyers, they now have 40%. Let me rephrase so that I am on record, I am correct. By the time of listing, 35% was GOK. That's 35%. 35% was our buyers. That is 70%. 5% was a company called Mobitelea, which was a vehicle of political patronage. The amount that was listed in the NSE was 25%, not the statement I had said before. So we listed 25%, it is in the market. All of a sudden, in this memoranda, now government has 35%, but our buyers already bought Mobitelea. So it means then the buyers were in cahoots with Mobitelea. Can Kenyans trust this company to be above board when it comes to this transaction when they already have shown their true colors in terms of integrity insofar as Mobitelea is concerned? Second one, and this one members take it now just like the one for quotation precedent. Seriously. Chairman, we are here being told about market price of Safaricom, but there is something we are not being told. That the Safaricom share price has some shades of the company share having been suppressed in the last 1 year. In June of this year, when the buyers knew there would be this transaction, they did something clever. They immobilized their shares, 16 billion shares. They immobilized their shares for the first time since the listing. Do you think that is normal, Chair? Immobilization means this. The shares were in certificate form, just like many other government like many other government stakes. They are not in the market. They are usually held even in certificate form. So what happens, you have to mobilize this share to go to the CDSC. So what did our buyers do? They immobilized 16 billion shares. What does that do? It sends signals to the market of an increase in supply of the same share. So what did the share do? Just exactly as the buyers intended. The share became suppressed. So as the market has been so bullish in Kenya, in other counters, Safaricom bullish but measured. Why? Because the market is already signaled that there is a 16 billion immobilized share by somebody who can sell today. Sell meaning they can supply to the market today afternoon. That CMA has to investigate whether there is even any share out of the 16 billion that has been offloaded out of the immobilized stake. Chair, as I go to the close, transaction, I had the National Treasury talks about KCB. This is how this market works, Chair, and I'm saying it in good faith and in humility. If you want to know, there is no other hand. One, and especially in the transaction cost, because it is abnormal. Transaction costs in the NSE, they are based on some parameters. And the more, the cheaper. If you buy 2 shares today worth the 2,000 shillings, in percentage you may end up paying a higher commission, but it's already capped at 2%. So you can't pay more than 2%. But What the brokers do, the more the weight of the transaction, the cheaper the commission. Now, when I heard that Kenya is paying a commission of an average of 1.5%, then I knew this is a red flag. You just need to do one thing as a committee. Tell KCB to do in writing whether they have something called a stockbroker's agent. That will clear that maneno. They do in writing to commit themselves. Because being a listed company, they'll still report in their financial year whether there is any cost that was incurred in this commission. Stockbrokers agents, how they do, you go to a stockbroker and say, this is my deal. And then you are put into the system as an agent. Then you are given between 35 to 50% of the commissions your client generates. So you just need to ask KCB in writing whether in this transaction there is a stockbroker's agent. Because if there is one, second question is, why do you actually need an agent? A company that is already being controlled by GOK. KCB, the chairman, is appointed by government, and the board composition is appointed by government based on the 19% stake. So why would you need an agent for you to connect Kengen to Kenya Power, for example? Why? So, chairman, whatever savings we make, it should go to the Kenyan people. But the way to cure that, let them commit. And then Parliament will check later whether in this transaction there was associated cost of an agent, because that is how things can happen. Lastly, the way forward, I have always said it, and I know 100%, Kenya may end up getting over 350 billion Kenya shillings if we follow part of them. And the many suggestions that I have heard from many people who have appeared before you, Chair. One, this issue of listing Safaricom came up even when I was in the corridors of power. So it's not something new to me. And therefore, whatever I'm saying is just to remind even the people who are there today. But there were better proposals than now. Why are we falling back to inferior proposals? The proposal which I would give, which even them they know, break Safaricom into 3. And you're not doing anything much. Breaking in paper, you're not breaking it like with Nyoro. Break Safaricom into a telco. Number 2, into a fintech. And number 3, into a tower company. The sum total of the 3 will be much more valuable than the whole. That's one. The second option, that is one option. The second option, if we really need money so fast and you don't have time to break down, it is very simple. It will take us very little time to list Safaricom PLC in the London Stock Exchange. The London Stock Exchange now, they are actually begging people to list in London because the global market have tilted towards America. So the LSE is now dry in terms of listing. If you show a signal you want to list, they can even say their finance minister here in Kenya tomorrow to list in the LSE. Once we list in the LSE, we expose Safaricom into the global markets. So people who don't know Safaricom, they only know M-Pesa, they'll get to know there is this profound company called Safaricom. It is actually the owner of M-Pesa, because M-Pesa is actually more known globally than Safaricom. What does that do? It creates interest. Chairman, after that, within the same option. After listing the LSE, open bids, international bids, for only 2 months, Kenya will be surprised that we will have people bidding even above the current consideration because of the other parameters that I gave. And I can bet to you, Chairman, and this issue is very weighty in my heart, is very heavy in my heart. The market already knew that Etisalat wanted to buy Vodacom. It was already known in the market. And therefore, I will not be surprised if our buyers today, next month, they are on sale. Why can't Kenya be patient for 2 months? We go directly to the main buyer and we get the right valuation. When we open an international bid, I can guarantee you we'll have the same buyers bidding at a higher price. We'll have audit bidding at a higher price. You'll have a TSRAT themselves bidding. You can have investment vehicles like BlackRock bidding, like Blackstone. Eventually, Kenya will get more, as the story I gave about Rehabi Pingo. So my submission, Chairman, is let us open this bid to international bidders. And we lose nothing. If Kenya gets an additional 150 billion, I thought the mileage will go to government. They'll build more roads. So, I mean, everyone benefits. Why can't we be patient for 2 months and we get a higher price, Chairman? Thank you very much. And as I submit, we look about the dividend. This is another securitization, as you know, of dividend. I would want to know even from the committee, maybe separately. You know, there's something called MTDS, whether it's actually part of it. We are now securitizing dividend. This dividend was part of our Appropriations Act, the current one. Because part of our revenues, the dividend is part of it. So we have securitized. I may ask many questions even about the current IPO that is ongoing. The proceeds were part of the Appropriations Act. So don't we see a mismatch? We have securitized dividend for the next many years, yet in our long-term and medium-term planning as a country, it is already accounted for as a revenue direct to the consolidated fund. I think Kenyans deserve answers on that. Thank you, Chair. I may give more rejoinders as we interact with members. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, for your excellent presentation and submission to the committee. Members, you've had the stakeholder. Now I'll be calling him a stakeholder. He's here as a stakeholder. So, members, yes, Mheshimiwa Ariko?
Okay, thank you,
And
Chair.
I will give it to